August 15th, 1940, 11:47 a.m., 15,000 feet above the English Channel. The sunlight catches the polished nose of Hauptmann Werner Mölders Messerschmitt Bf 109E as he leads Jagdgeschwader 51 in a loose formation toward the Kent coast. The engine hums with mechanical confidence. A Daimler-Benz DB 601, pushing a 175 horsepower through a three-bladed propeller. Behind him, 19 more 109s spread across the sky like hunting hawks, their yellow noses marking them as veterans of the French campaign. Below, 70 Heinkel He 111 bombers drone toward England in tight formations, their glass noses glinting, bomb bays loaded with 250-kilogram high explosives destined for RAF Hawkinge. Mölders adjusts his oxygen mask and scans the horizon. The channel spreads beneath them, a rippled sheet of gray-blue stretching toward the white cliffs that are beginning to materialize through the haze. He feels the familiar surge of anticipation, but not fear. Never fear. Not after Poland. Not after France. Achtung, alle Flugzeuge, he says into his radio, voice crackling through the static. Stay sharp. The Tommies will send up their little Spitfires to play. Laughter crackles back through the squadron frequency. If they dare show up at all, replies Oberleutnant Hans Trautloft from White 7, his 109 banking slightly to maintain position. They've been running scared for 2 weeks. More laughter. It's been the same joke for days now. The British fighters are outnumbered, outgunned, hiding at their airfields while the Luftwaffe pounds them into submission. The Spitfire, they've been told, is overrated. A decent machine, perhaps, in the hands of a skilled pilot. But the Bf 109 is faster in the dive, climbs better, and the German pilots, veterans all, have more experience, better tactics, superior training. France fell in 6 weeks. The Spitfire couldn't save them. Britain will fall in 6 more. Mölders had seen Spitfires before. Fleeting encounters over Dunkirk, brief exchanges over Dover. They were nimble, yes. But the 109 had altitude advantage, better energy retention, and every engagement had ended with the British breaking off, scattering like startled birds. The myth of British fighter superiority belonged to 1918. This is 1940, and Germany owns the sky. Schwarmführer to all aircraft, Mölders continues, settling back into his seat. The leather creaks. The control column feels solid in his gloved hand. We maintain escort formation until the bombers are feet dry. Then we hunt. Anything that climbs to meet us, destroy it. Jawohl, Herr Hauptmann. The white cliffs are closer now. Mölders can make out the green fields of Kent beyond, patchwork squares of farmland and hedgerows. Peaceful, undefended. He thinks of the bombers below, how their payloads will crater those fields, destroy those airfields, break British morale piece by piece. And when the Spitfires do come up to fight, the 109s will swat them down. In the operations room at Jagdgeschwader, 51's forward base near Calais, the morning briefing had been casual. The intelligence officer, a thin-faced lieutenant with round spectacles, had pointed at the map with a wooden stick. RAF Fighter Command is at breaking point, he'd said. They're losing pilots faster than they can train them, losing aircraft faster than they can build them. Continue the pressure, destroy their airfields. When their fighters come up, and they will, shoot them down. The Spitfire's reputation exceeds its capability. Someone had asked about British radar. Overestimated, the intelligence officer replied with a dismissive wave. They may detect us, but they can't coordinate a response fast enough. By the time they scramble, we're already on target and withdrawing. Now, crossing the channel at 15,000 feet, Mölders believes it. Everything he's seen confirms it. The British are reeling. His altimeter reads 15,200 feet. Airspeed, 340 kilometers per hour. Fuel, 3/4. The 109 responds to every input with precision. Two 7.92 mm MG-17 machine guns in the nose, two 20 mm MG FF cannons in the wings. 150 rounds per cannon, enough to kill a dozen Spitfires if they're stupid enough to engage. Below, the Heinkel formations maintain their course. The bomber crews are probably terrified. They always are. But they hold formation, droning toward England like a mechanical flock. The 109s are their shield. The coast is 2 minutes away. Mölders checks his mirrors. The squadron is tight, professional. White 3 and White 4 are tucked in close on his right. The second Schwarm holds position 500 meters behind and above. Textbook. What he doesn't know, what none of them know, is that 60 miles away, in a concrete bunker at RAF Bentley Priory, the filter room has been tracking them since they lifted off from Calais. The chain-home radar stations at Dover, Rye, and Pevensey have been painting their formation on cathode ray tubes for 12 minutes. Women in WAF uniforms have been moving colored blocks across a map table, updating their course, speed, altitude, and strength. Group Captain Park has already given the order. Scramble Hornchurch, scramble Biggin Hill. Vector 120, Angels 20. Large raid inbound, bombers with heavy fighter escort. At RAF Hornchurch, the alarm bell has already rung. Pilots have sprinted across the grass toward 12 waiting Spitfires. Engines are coughing to life. The roar of Rolls-Royce Merlin engines fills the air as propellers begin to spin. But Mölders doesn't hear any of this. He sees only clear sky. "Crossing the coast now," he reports. "All aircraft, maintain..." And then the radio explodes with frantic German voices. "Indianer, Indianer, oben links." Enemy fighters, above and to the left. Mölders' head snaps left and up. His heart kicks against his ribs. They're already there. 16 Supermarine Spitfires dropping out of the sun at 20,000 feet. Noses down, wings shimmering as they roll into attack. Dives. The lead aircraft is close enough that Mölders can see the roundels on its wings, red, white, and blue circles that seem to grow larger with terrifying speed. They've come from above. They've come from the sun. They've been waiting. Brake! Brake right! Mölders yanks his stick hard over, jamming the throttle forward. The 109 rolls violently, G-forces slamming him into his seat. His vision tunnels. The horizon spins. The Spitfires fall through the formation like wolves into sheep. Squadron leader Peter Townsend of 85. Squadron has the lead, his Spitfire Make-E screaming downward at 400 miles per hour. His gloved thumb hovers over the gun button. 8.303 Browning machine guns, 300 rounds per gun, converging at 250 yards. He picks a 109 in the center of the formation, leads it slightly, and presses down. The Brownings roar. Tracers arc across the sky in brilliant streams of light. The 109, White 8, piloted by Unteroffizier Klaus Bergmann, takes the burst across its engine cowling. Metal tears, coolant explodes in a white cloud. Bergmann's canopy shatters. His aircraft shudders, rolls inverted, and begins a flat spin toward the channel below. Bergmann doesn't bail out. "Scheiße, Scheiße!" The radio is chaos. German voices screaming over each other. "Wo sind sie hergekommen?" Where did they come from? Flight Lieutenant Brian Lane rolls his Spitfire into a hard left turn, pulling 6 Gs, the wings groaning under the strain. A 109 flashes past his canopy, close enough to see the pilot's face, young, pale, eyes wide with shock. Lane reverses, kicks rudder, brings his nose around. The Spitfire turns inside the 109's radius. It always does. The German pilot tries to dive away, but Lane is already tracking him, already firing. The 109's tail disintegrates. Control surfaces shred. The aircraft snaps into an uncontrollable roll and plummets. 2 down in 15 seconds. Mölders recovers from his brake turn and climbs hard, trying to gain altitude, trying to regroup. His wingman, Feldwebel Otto Schmidt in White 2, is gone. Just gone. Mölders' head swivels frantically, searching the sky. There, 3 Spitfires in a climbing spiral, pursuing what's left of the second swarm. There, 2 more diving on the bombers, tracers lacing through a Heinkel's port wing, the bombers streaming smoke, falling away from formation. This isn't how it's supposed to happen. The Spitfires are everywhere. They're faster than he thought. Tighter turning, more aggressive. And they're not running. They're hunting. Oberleutnant Trautloff's voice cuts through the radio static, high-pitched, desperate. "I'm hit. Oil pressure dropping. The transmission ends. Mölders twists in his seat, spots a Spitfire on his 6 o'clock, 800 meters back and closing. He pushes the nose down, diving for speed. The 109 accelerates. 340, 360, 380 kilometers per hour. The Spitfire follows, matching him. Mölders pulls back on the stick, bleeding energy into a climbing turn. The Spitfire climbs with him, stays with him. The British pilot is good. Too good. Mölders snaps into a roll, inverts, pulls through. The horizon spins, sky becomes ground, becomes sky. The Spitfire is still there, glued to his tail, closing the distance. 600 meters. 500 meters. Mölders can see the muzzle flashes now, 8 points of light flickering from the Spitfire's wings. Tracers snap past his canopy. 1 round punches through his port wing. Another strikes the fuselage behind his head with a metallic clang. He has no choice. Mölders shoves the stick forward and dives hard, pointing the nose straight down at the channel. The altimeter unwinds rapidly. 14,000, 12,000, 10,000 feet. The engine screams. The airframe shudders. The Spitfire breaks off. It can't follow him through a sustained dive, not without risking structural failure. But the damage is done. Pilot Officer Jeffrey Wellham, 19 years old, pulls his Spitfire out of the dive at 8,000 feet and arcs back toward the battle. His hands are shaking on the stick. His first confirmed kill, a 109 that went into the sea trailing smoke and flame. He'd seen the pilot bail out, seen the parachute blossom, seen the man hit the water. Alive or dead, Wellham doesn't know. The sky above is a tangle of contrails and smoke. Aircraft wheel and dive in a 3-dimensional chess game played at 300 miles per hour. A 109 burns in a long arc toward the ground. Another spins past him, out of control, the pilot slumped in the cockpit. A Spitfire with a shredded wing limps toward the coast, streaming fuel. Wellham checks his ammunition, half gone. He climbs back into the fight. Below, the Heinkel formations are scattering. Without fighter protection, they're defenseless. Spitfires from 111 Squadron, late to the fight, are tearing into them now. Sergeant Harry Davidson lines up behind a Heinkel, closes to 200 yards, and fires a 3-second burst. The bomber's starboard engine erupts in flames. The Heinkel banks hard, loses altitude, jettisons its bombs into the channel, and turns for home trailing black smoke. The bombers that remain dump their payloads early and run. The mission is over. Mölders levels off at 4,000 feet, nursing his damaged one back toward France. His radio is filled with distress calls, mayday signals, pilots reporting fuel leaks, engine damage, wounded crewmen. White 6 has vanished. White 9 is trying to make the coast on one engine. White 12 reports his hydraulics are shot. He'll have to belly land at Calais. and the Spitfires are still up there, circling, waiting for stragglers. Lieutenant Reinhard Seiler, White 14, doesn't make it. A Spitfire finds him at 2,000 feet, alone and slow, and puts a burst into his engine. Seiler bails out at 800 feet. His parachute barely has time to open before he hits the water. The channel is cold. Seiler will be picked up by a German rescue boat 4 hours later, hypothermic but alive. By 12:23 p.m., 36 minutes after the engagement began, the sky over Kent is clear. The Spitfires, low on fuel and ammunition, are returning to their airfields. The ground crews are already waiting, fuel trucks and ammunition trolleys ready, rearming and refueling as fast as humanly possible. Some pilots don't even shut down their engines, just reload and go back up. At Hornchurch, Squadron Leader Townsend climbs out of his Spitfire on shaking legs. His rigger, a corporal named Davies, is already counting the holes in the fuselage. 7 hits, sir. Nothing critical. Townsend nods, pulls off his helmet, lights a cigarette with trembling hands. He's claimed 2 109s destroyed, 1 probable. Around him, other pilots are gathering, talking rapidly, adrenaline still surging. "They didn't know we were there," says Flight Lieutenant Lane, accepting a cigarette from Townsend. "Not until we were right on top of them." "Radar," Townsend replies, "gave us altitude and position. We had 10 minutes to climb." 10 minutes. That's all it took. At Jagdgeschwader 51's forward airfield near Calais, the ground crews hear them coming before they see them. The sound is wrong. Normally, when the Staffel returns from a mission, the sky fills with the synchronized drone of 20 Daimler-Benz engines, a mechanical symphony of victory. Today, the sound is ragged, sporadic, engines coughing and misfiring, long gaps of silence between arrivals. Oberfeldwebel Hans Kruger, chief mechanic, shades his eyes and counts the yellow-nosed 109s as they struggle in for landing. 1, 2, 3. Long pause. 4 and 5 together, 1 trailing smoke. 6. Another pause. 7. Limping in on a damaged undercarriage that collapses on touchdown, sending the aircraft skidding across the grass in a shower of sparks and torn earth. Kruger stops counting at 12. 20 went out. 12 came back. Mölders lands hard, his damaged hydraulics making the 109 bounce twice before settling. He cuts the engine and sits in the cockpit for a long moment, staring at his shaking hands. The leather gloves are soaked with sweat. Behind him, smoke drifts from the bullet hole in his fuselage, 6 inches from where his head had been. When he finally climbs out, his legs nearly give way. A mechanic steadies him. "Herr Hauptmann, are you wounded?" "No." Mölders pulls off his helmet. His hair is plastered to his skull with sweat. "Give me the count. How many are missing?" The mechanic hesitates. "We're still waiting for..." "How many?" 8, sir. 8 unaccounted for." 8. 40% casualties. In 36 minutes. Across the field, Feldwebel Schmidt is being pulled from White 11's cockpit, his left arm hanging useless, blood soaking through his flight suit. The medical orderlies rush him toward the aid station. Lieutenant Werner Bartels sits on his wing, helmet off, vomiting onto the grass. Unteroffizier Paul Richter, White 16, hasn't shut down his engine. He's still in the cockpit, unresponsive, until 2 ground crew climb up and realize he's been shot through the shoulder and has been flying on pure shock and adrenaline for 40 minutes. Major Hannes Trautloft, the Geschwader Commodore, strides across the airfield, his face carved from stone. He finds Mölders near the operations tent, lighting a cigarette with trembling hands. Report. Mölders exhales smoke. They were waiting for us. Above us. They knew we were coming. Radar? Has to be. We crossed the coast and they hit us immediately. 16, maybe 20 Spitfires. Already at altitude. Already positioned. Mölders takes another drag. We never had a chance to engage on our terms. Troutloff's jaw tightens. And the bombers? Scattered. Most jettisoned and turned back. I saw at least 2 go down. Mölders looks at the sky, still clear and blue and innocent. The Spitfires. They're not what we were told. Explain. Turn rate. They outturn us at every altitude. I tried every maneuver. They stayed with me. Their pilots are well-trained, aggressive, and their coordination. He shakes his head. They didn't attack piecemeal. They hit us from altitude with the sun behind them, concentrated on breaking our formation first, then hunted individuals. It was professional. Troutloff says nothing for a moment. Around them, the airfield is controlled chaos. Mechanics swarming damaged aircraft. Ambulances racing toward the aid station. The intelligence officer, the same thin-faced lieutenant from the morning briefing, approaches with a clipboard, his face pale. Preliminary count, Herr Mayor. 8 aircraft lost, 3 more damaged beyond field repair. 4 pilots killed or missing, 3 wounded. He swallows. The British are claiming 20 German aircraft destroyed in the engagement. That's impossible, Troutloff snaps. It includes bombers, sir, and... The intelligence officer checks his notes. And they're probably counting aircraft that made it home but are write-offs. Mölders crushes his cigarette under his boot. They shot down 8 of my fighters in half an hour. 8. The Heinkels lost at least 3, maybe 5. How many Spitfires did we destroy? Silence. How many? The intelligence officer consults his clipboard. Pilots are claiming 4 confirmed, 2 probable. 4. Against 20 German aircraft lost or damaged. The mathematics are brutal. By evening, the full picture emerges. The RAF's official tally: 20 German aircraft destroyed, 14 fighters, 6 bombers. The Luftwaffe's confirmed losses: 19 aircraft that will never fly again. Another 7 damaged, 13 pilots dead or captured, 5 more wounded. In one afternoon. At RAF Bentley Priory, Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding studies the reports with grim satisfaction. The chain-home radar network has proven its worth. The sector stations vectored the fighters perfectly. The Spitfire squadrons executed flawlessly. Most importantly, the German bomber formation never reached its target. Not a single bomb fell on RAF Hawkinge. They'll come again tomorrow, Dowding says to his operations officer, and the day after. But today they learned something. Sir? They learned that the Spitfire isn't a myth, and that British pilots aren't running scared. Across the channel, in officer quarters at Calais, Hauptmann Werner Mölders sits on his bunk and writes a letter he will never send. The words come slowly, honestly. We were told the Spitfire was overrated. We were told British morale was broken. We were told this would be easy. Today, I watched 8 of my men die because we believed those lies. The Spitfire turns tighter than our 109. Their radar gives them altitude advantage. Their pilots fight with discipline and courage. We have underestimated them, and we are paying the price in blood. He folds the letter, tucks it into his logbook, and stares at the ceiling. Tomorrow, they will fly again. The orders are already written. But something has changed. The casual confidence, the arrogance, is gone, replaced by something colder, respect, fear, the understanding that this war in the air will not be won easily, that the Spitfire is not a joke, that the British are not beaten, and that the Luftwaffe, for the first time since Poland, has been made to bleed. August 15th, 1940, will become known among German pilots as Black Thursday, the day the Luftwaffe flew 1,786 sorties and lost 75 aircraft. The day the myth of German invincibility cracked. The day the Battle of Britain turned. For the pilots of RAF Fighter Command, it was validation. For the German air crews, it was a brutal awakening. The Spitfires they had mocked were now the aircraft they feared. And the long summer of 1940, that desperate struggle for control of the skies over Britain, would stretch on for 2 more months, each day measured in aircraft destroyed and pilots lost. But after August 15th, the Luftwaffe knew the truth. Britain would not fall in 6 weeks. Perhaps it would not fall at all.